I said, I might, I said, bring the names here.
No, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. Meeting will come to order, please.
Right.
Johanna, please read a statement of compliance.
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press of Atlantic City, Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Becker.
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
Mr. Dennis, the engineer's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, item number A is our dredging project. We actually had a meeting this afternoon with the dredge committee. We've reached a couple milestones, particularly with the Stockton University work. Again, we're on two parallel tracks, one being related to the Shelter Island restoration site, which Stockton had been working on a number of seasonal studies that needed to be done over the course of over a year. That work is complete. And then on the other track, we have the citywide dredging project, which we have an application package ready to go, and we were waiting on some sediment sampling and testing results that we now have. So we thought it would be a good time to reconvene, which we did. We discussed the path forward, which would include Stockton basically wrapping up the reports associated with that work, getting them over to my office. We already have the citywide dredging permit application pretty much ready to go, so we'll wrap that up based on the data that comes in from Stockton, and we'll have some help from them to make sure we're wording things the way that they should be worded. So we will get that package basically wrapped up and ready to go, and it will be submitted. So that will be the citywide dredging application permit.
Time frame.
Probably will be wrapped up within the next month or so as far as submission of that application package. So that's for the actual dredging project. That dredging application will name Dredge Hole 86 as the disposal site. So concurrent with that, Roger's going to reach out to DOT. Dredge Hole 86 is controlled by the NJDOT. Roger's going to reach out to DOT to reconnect with them. We had a meeting with them probably over a year ago now.
Over here.
Where we discussed the particulars of using that site as our disposal site. Roger will reach out, we'll reconnect with them to discuss what the next steps are with them as far as naming them on the application as a disposal site, and then, what that process entails. So that will be happening. And then on the Shelter Island side, we've begun to prepare the permit applications for that site as a alternate disposal site. The next step there is we're going to schedule a pre-application meeting with DEP and Army Corps, which we already did for the dredging project. So we'll have a pre-application meeting with them for Shelter Island, which will be particularly important because of the nature of the project, and there's some specific guidance I think that can be offered on how we present this application. We will be naming the Coastal Research Center as the agent for that application. For strategic reasons, we think it will help us in the review process with the DEP. So the next step on that front will be for us to meet with DEP and Army Corps, present the project concept, and get their feedback on how best to proceed with the application. So like I said, we've hit a couple milestones here, which is great, and there'll be a couple more coming up in the next month or so as far as keeping this process moving.
Thank you.
And Roger or Scott, do you have anything to add?
It's exciting. I mean, they are now starting to use other dredge holes that are fine. I sat at the Thailand's council meeting by Zoom, and Stratford Township's going to try to do it now, Atlantic City trying to do it, Brick Township. Big dredging projects too, 500,000+ cubic yards. So they've really latched on to this idea of using these old dredge holes that were created about 100 years ago when they filled in areas like the lower end of Margate, Ventnor, Atlantic City. And that happened all the way up and down the coast. So ultimately, we're going to have a citywide permit, which will even allow individual homeowners to do what they own, like in the lagoons where their docks are. And the goal was to be able to put it in the dredge hole, because that's our cheapest means of getting rid of the dredge material. So actually pretty excited about it. I think it's gonna happen, we're gonna have this firm. Now we have to do things.
Thank you. Roger?
Well, not only may it be the least expensive method to do it, but if we use Shelter Island, it's a beneficial reuse by restoring a wetland site that has been destroyed by dredging activity, as Scott said, over 100 years. So there would be a shared services agreement with DOT. We just have to find out if it's before we put it in the contract, before we got the bid, to use Dredge 086, which is off of Atlantic City near the old Two Guys site. That's pretty much it. I do suggest that we have a public information session at some point in time to sit down with the property owners affected, to let them know what the process will be to jump on board to have their slips dredged. You know, the city's gonna permit for it, but they are responsible for paying their own dredging. So the earlier that they know about how to do it and what the game plan is, the better for them, the better for the city. Makes it a little bit more smooth. It's worked out well in other communities such as Avalon and Ocean City, and I expect nothing different here.
Question.
John, you have a question?
Question for Roger. In Ocean City, I think you were involved in one of the dredge projects there. What happens if a resident or a riparian right owner doesn't want to dredge their property?
They don't have to do it.
Don't do it.
So what happens to the two sides to do it? Doesn't that wash in there?
It depends on the slope. It depends how close they are to the bulkhead. Depends how the tidal influence of that lagoon is. If it's in the open water, it'll probably have very little effect. In the closed lagoon, might not have any effect either. It depends what the material is. If it's silty, it probably will cave in a little bit. But it hasn't really been an issue. Most homeowners do participate.
Did you find that in Ocean City?
Yes, yes.
Majority did.
They couldn't wait to participate. They've been waiting a long time to get the dredging done. I envision the same thing here.
And not only that, we expect this would be a really cost-effective option for the homeowners, because you're not, first of all, from a permitting standpoint, they don't have to go out and get their own permit. But then from a cost standpoint, you've got a contractor already in town. So, you know, our hope is that we'll get a good price for the private slips.
Okay,
Yep.
good, okay.
I have a
Thank
question.
you. Maury has a question.
So along those same lines, Roger, in Ocean City, was there an assessment for the people that lived on the lagoons? When you dredged their lagoons, were they assessed?
Early on, I don't want to say in the 70s and 80s, some of those lagoons were privately owned. So they were responsible for getting the permit, the dredging, and paying for it all together. At some point in time in the late 90s, early 2000s, the city took over all the lagoons, and they did do an assessment, I believe, one season, and it didn't go well. It was, what you saw was a flurry of activity for tax assessment purposes. Well, if I can't use my boat slip because why should I be paying a lower tax? Why should I pay higher taxes and an assessment? So I think most towns have gotten away from the assessment value because it's already included in their tax costs or their tax base of the property.
Okay, but,
I think I know.
so, but my thinking here is on the other side of that. One, when we go and dredge these canals, are we not now increasing the value of those properties that are on the canals?
I think the value of the
So-
property is already built into those lagoons being dredged and being navigable.
Oh, even though they're not.
Right.
So when I go today to buy a house on the bay on Pembroke Avenue and I can't put a boat there, I'm going to pay the same amount of money for that house as I go a year from now when I can put a 50-foot boat in that slip? No, I think that the value of that house is going to go up.
Well, remember now, those lagoons, for instance, the city has deeds, at least the one Pembroke and Rumson. So we got a deed, and that was done in the early 50s. That was the last time they were dredged by the government. I'm not sure who funded it, whether it was Margate or DEP, but I do know that there were deeds to the center of those lagoons to get it done. Sort of like repairing streets.
But we're getting away from Mark's
No.
question.
Go ahead,
And
John.
I think his question is it going to affect our tax base?
Are we adding value to that property by dredging?
Yes.
I think you're creating the value that it was intended to be.
I think what Roger's saying is that the value of, that the homes are assessed at already presumes that
It's
that it's
navigable.
navigable. What has happened in some other communities is homeowners that have slips that aren't navigable have come in and appealed their taxes.
And won.
So maybe in those instances, if
Right.
they were successful with their appeal, once it's dredged, then it would go back up. That would be an example of
Okay.
what you're asking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
Now,
Good.
and Maury brings out another good point. Would the homeowners be allowed to have an assessment created? Just say they couldn't afford, just say it's a $60,000 bill to dredge out if they have 100 foot of water frontage. Would they be allowed to have an assessment on their tax bill over a 10-year period? I guess that would have to be the governing body to decide that.
Yeah, I think we're getting beyond the permit and the actual constructability of dredging.
Yeah.
To me, that's more of a financial issue, or that homeowner, if they can't afford to dredge that lagoon, they wouldn't get it dredged.
I think the way it would be set up is, the way we would structure the bid, we would have a mechanism in the contract for the homeowners to pay the contractor directly for their work.
Right.
So it would be set up that way. So the contractor would know going in that this is set up, you know, to take on that.
For instance, like Sunset Lagoon, we would be responsible for the center of the lagoon, not the 10 or 20 feet from the pier line into the bulkhead.
Right.
That's the homeowner's responsibility. So no matter what, the city will be dredging the center of it. The homeowners can all tag along with that contractor or get their own contractor at a later point in time, because that permit's gonna be good for 5 years.
Good.
And that's the other piece here, is that once we have this permit, they can go get their slip dredge whenever they, you know, on their own, anytime, whenever they want.
Yeah, they don't have to get DEP
That's right.
approval. Good
I mean, they don't even need to wait for our contract.
Right, that's a good point.
Right.
The only issue would be is if they use a different disposal site than what we have in our permit.
So, this is a great example of why Roger said we need to have a meeting with the affected residents, because there's gonna be, think of all the questions we all just thought of, and we've been working on this for 2, 3, 4 years. So, I think all these questions need to get answered, and, I think that'll help smooth the process out.
When would you propose having such a meeting?
Probably not until we get further along in the process, what do you think?
Till we
Further
get
along the
final
process, but
approval.
not waiting too long.
Right.
Well, keep in mind that summer's gonna be over and some of these people are gonna be
Right.
going home, going to Florida and all of that, which, as you schedule that meeting, okay?
Very good. Okay. Item B is this building in the flood proofing that we've been working on for a little while now. We've sent off the information that FEMA requested, and they are going back and forth with OEM to try to cut loose the additional funding that we need for the upgrades here for further flood proofing. Item C is our next phase of the beach bulkhead cut-throughs at Night and Union. So we are working on the engineering design for that for a fall bid. Item D is our 2022, our next phase of curb and gutter, which we're done the survey work there, so the engineering is in progress. Most of the projects that I'm going to list off here are in some form of survey or engineering phase. These are all our 2022 capital projects. Item E is, and we have several over at the rec complex. We have our survey work complete, so the engineering is in process for replacement of the walkway around the Sig Rim complex. Item F is our next state aid road, which is Winchester Avenue from Douglas to Exeter Ave. The survey work is done there, the base plans are pretty much done, so we'll move on to engineering design. That's another fall bid. Item G is the wall of fame that we've discussed for over at Sig Rim, again, in the engineering phase for that project. Item H is the batting cages over at Sig Rim. We've also completed the survey work there. The engineering actually is almost complete on that, so we'll be looking to get that project out to bid. Item I, this will probably be the last meeting that we have this listed separately, so we just submitted 3 grant applications to the DOT for our 2023 state aid program. Our priority one was the Winchester Avenue project from Claremont to Douglas, which would be the next phase of Winchester. Our priority 2 municipal aid was a project to do some additional bike lane markings on Atlantic Avenue to basically paint the bike lanes green, and that would be only in the areas that have been newly paved. So that would be phase 1 of that work. This is a grant application for that work. And then the third application we submitted was under the Safe Streets to Transit program for some work on Washington Avenue to upgrade the curb ramps. all the way from the beach to the bay, and then to do some work on the parkway, install some benches near the bus stops, and upgrade our street name signs on the parkway. So there's an online process that's being completed that Johanna has been helping out with, and we're pretty much ready to go, and those applications will move into our running list of grants probably at the next meeting. Item J is the library roof project, which is scheduled to go out to bid on July 28th. I mentioned at the last meeting, this is a companion to the HVAC job that's already been awarded over at the library, which is on the construction project list. So once the HVAC is done, the idea is that we will come in and do the roof. So that job's going out to bid next week. Item K is just a running list of our grant applications. There are no updates on this list, and like I said, those DOT grants will slide in on this list at the next report. And item L, I did sit down with Mr. Deeney before he set sail, and we are getting started on a number of other capital projects that were in the 2022 budget, so those will be added to the list on the next report. We will get those projects moving. Jumping down to our construction list, there's no updates under maintenance bonds. We've got a couple that are coming due at the end of the year that we'll stay on top of. On our closeouts, we did finally close out our Firehouse 2 project, so that'll come off the list. Like I mentioned at the last meeting, the 2 Atlantic Avenue Lafayette jobs are closed out and paid. We're just leaving them on here until we get our DOT reimbursement, which I don't think
We
did.
received it. It was one of the things I was going to
Oh, great.
report on for both
Oh, we got
18 and
both?
19, yeah.
Fantastic,
They're off the list.
fantastic. Okay. I like to see that list nice and short. So we'll only have the tank left on there, which is, there's an anniversary inspection that'll be coming up for that. So that's good. So we'll only have one left for closeout. Item O is Amherst Avenue Phase 1. We're still working with the contractor here to clean up some punch list items. They've got some grass restoration they need to do. I don't believe it was done this week. I know they were maybe planning to do it this week. Very hot out, so it might not be the best time to plant the sod, but we want to make sure we stay on top of them to get this work done.
There was some minor concrete work that had to be done.
Yes, that's on the list as well.
Okay.
Yep. Item P is Phase 2 of Amherst Avenue, which is substantially complete. We got a punch list there with South State that we're working on with that contractor to get this project wrapped up. And that was our fiscal year 21 DOT project, so we want to get that wrapped up and get our final reimbursement in. Item Q is the municipal building renovation project, which we've had some activity over there. They moved into the corridor, so they're making progress there. There are a couple long lead items that will probably end up affecting the schedule, doors and some windows, but the contractor is continuing to work, and we'll keep him there and working as long as we can, try to keep these, keep those approvals moving so we can order the materials. And then item R is our 2021 road program, which is on summer vacation. So we did 2 out of the 3 roads that were included in the project. That was Claremont and Brunswick Court. So that work is done. We've got a little bit of punch list work left there. And then Phase 2 will be Mansfield Ave. And then we also added the police station parking lot that will be done in the fall. And the last item on here I did reference is the HVAC job over at the library, which is under contract. We did order the equipment. We're just waiting for it to arrive. It is a long lead item, so we're looking at the fall for when actual construction can start on that job. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ed? Barry, John?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. We will go to department head reports. And Dan, why don't you start today?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say we had a successful event at the Margate Library, our open house on Wednesday night. And as always, Nanette, thank you for your excellent coverage. 2, we participated in the Jewish Family Services Health event on the 19th, the following night. Took several blood pressures of our residents and visitors, and everything went well. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. We had a minor fire incident on Sunday, and the police personnel that were there were very helpful. And Station 2 has progressed very well with the landscaping, and I just want to say thank you to Pat Shell and the Public Works team for taking care of that. Other than that, progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple things I want to update you on. We received in the second and final tranche of those American Recovery Funds, the amount of $306,000. So all the funding has been received for that. It's going to be held in reserve until we need to start paying for the water meter replacement project that's being authorized today. So that's good news. At yesterday's monthly JIF meeting, they were discussing that they're going to be issuing a safety bulletin in regards to electronic bikes and scooters. So I know this goes more towards the chief. I just wanted to give you a heads up that they are aware of it because there are issues in a lot of municipalities now with these motorized scooters going on boardwalks and promenades and causing a lot of issues. And one town, I believe it was Wildwood Crest, reported that there's a local company who's just coming and dropping off these scooters for residents to rent without notifying the municipality ahead of time. So I just wanted to make you aware of it, that they will be issuing some guidelines, and then they did suggest that we review our current ordinance or adopt an ordinance, you know, perhaps regulating them. So I'll let you know when I get that information.
I know we have one regarding mopeds and motor scooters.
Okay.
We had that issue last year.
Okay.
So it might
That's
fall under
something.
that same ordinance that we have regarding the small, like less than 50 cc
There's a
vehicles.
lot. Yesterday, I saw a woman with a small infant going the wrong way on Ventnor Avenue
With a
with her
kid in the front
baby on the
basket.
front of the
I saw the
bus.
same thing.
I was like.
Just
amazed.
sitting there, not
Yeah,
pedaling.
no, the bike was going probably 10 miles an hour.
The
against
basket was on the
traffic.
front of the bike.
I just couldn't
There's a
believe
little kid
it.
in it.
People don't want
It
their
gets
kids.
worse every year.
The only things, couple revenue items to give you an update. Our interest earnings are just below $28,000, so that's steadily been increasing. As I mentioned before, I've layered some of our investments. One matures the end of the month and a couple in August. So then we'll realize the interest earnings on them. I have a total as of June 30th of $14,204,000 invested in this NJ Asset Rebate Management Program. Additional cash on hand is just below $6 million for, as of June 30th. Our construction fees, as you know, are continuing to increase. They're up by $20,000 at this time last year. We have just over $373,000. Ambulance billing, now that everything is starting to get implemented by our new billing service, I'm starting to see where, you know, the collections have been steadily increasing, and we're at 91,000 as of June 30th, which is 17,000 over this time last year. And as you know, we held the citywide auction for various equipment, city-owned equipment. We received the funds for that, and that was just over $156,000. So a lot of money coming in, and that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Good
Any
job.
questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa. Chief?
Mayor, thank you. First of all, just want to put a reminder out there. We have our annual Law Day at the library on August 10th from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. This year, we'll be doing car seat installations, bicycle registrations. We're going to have the Atlantic County Humane Society out there. They're going to talk about their chipping program for pets. So we're going to try to implement a lot more services that are around the county. So again, if any resident has any questions about anything, a lot of the service, we're also going to have somebody from the community outreach program for outreach programs that are available in the county. So we're going to try to bring in different services this year just so people get a better idea of everything that's out there that's available to them. The chipping program for the animals is a big thing. When we get an animal that's running around, the first thing we do is check for a chip. We have a chip reader, and a lot of times we can figure out who the dog belongs to if they're chipped. So it's actually a very good program, and it's always a great event. So I would hope to see a lot of people out there. Second, as we're moving through the summer, just another reminder, and it's actually been a very good summer so far, just reminding residents, I say do a 10 o'clock checklist or a 9 o'clock checklist, depending on what time you go to bed. Lock your front door, lock your cars, make sure your porch light's on, If we do some of these small crime prevention things, we can eliminate a lot of the issues that we do have. As we've seen recently, I don't know if people have seen in the newspaper in Avalon, they had 3 luxury vehicles stolen in Avalon because the keys were in it. So again, if I can just remind people one small thing, lock your car and take the keys, a lot of times that does work. There are other times it doesn't work, but those small things can help. So again, I just reiterate, lock your car, lock your house, call the police if you see anything suspicious. It's been a good summer so far. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Good job. Roger? That's you, Roger.
No other Roger at the table.
Not yet. No. Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. I hope there's no chip shortage for these dogs. Ordinance changes, there's one remaining on for tonight. That's number 11, which is the submission requirements. We're still going to require applicants for planning board applications to submit everything in electronic files, so our people that are not in town can review the plans and applications. 2 of them are pulled. One is the 3rd floor decks and the front yard fences for various reasons, but I think the front yard fences will be dying on its own vine, and 3rd floor decks will be revised to permit a little bit more than what was originally intended in the ordinance. Code enforcement issues, we've been notifying and enforcing hours of operation for a lot of contractors in town. It's caused a little bit of hardship in some of these contractors, or maybe not hardship, maybe some bad feelings, but it needed to get done. It was being abused and taken out of context of what 6 o'clock means. 6 o'clock means stop, and they weren't doing that. So that's been going very well. On our end, again, we're rubbing some people the wrong way, but it needed to get done. And I think once people get used to the enforcement aspect of it, they'll follow the rules. And we've seen a lot of site cleanliness, construction site cleanliness has really improved in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, thanks to our office enforcing that. Again, not everybody's happy about it, but the people that are complaining about it are happy that we're reacting to their complaints. So I think overall, the sites are looking a lot better. They're safer, they're cleaner, and that's number one. And the final thing is, Scott and I were talking about the past several weekends, how Margate's doing very well. The businesses are doing extremely well here. The Margate Wibbit site on the water park, the golf course, and it's not just people that are here for a week or a weekend or whatever. It's people that are still here throughout the whole summer and are enjoying it, and they're still making up the majority of the people in Margate. So the idea that this is a transient community is hogwash, but I think it's a good thing. That's all.
Roger, keep those quality of life issues moving forward, okay?
We're going to maintain it. It's
That's good.
part of Margate.
That's why they're here. Fred, sorry. Nice to see you here, Fred.
It's nice to be seen, Mayor. Thank you. The municipal building project, the corridor project that Ed spoke about, is continuing to move forward. I'm going to have my guys in there next week. Hopefully, they'll be pulling cable for the security systems that we're putting in. Going to have the HVAC guys come in. There's some pieces that just arrived, so they're going to be working on trying to get some more ductwork up and get some more of those units in. So trying to keep the project moving. As Ed said, there's things that need to be approved and then ordered, and then it's going to be sit back and wait till the products come in. On top of that, I have about 7 technology projects that are going on right now. The major one is we're going to be putting in a new 911 system. The system that we currently have is outdated, end of life, and we're going to design it. I have it designed a different way. I don't really want to speak about it too much, only for security reasons. But the way I have it set up, it'll be able to be used as an OEM center also, which I'll be working on probably after the first of the year. OEM center will probably it'll be in the municipal building, hidden up on the 2nd floor someplace.
I think I know where.
It'll be hidden though. Jimmy's not here, so he gave it away the last time. The other projects are basically moving most of the applications up to the cloud, getting them out of in-house, safer that way. But it's pretty busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Frank?
Yeah, we just completed yesterday putting the new street signs on the beach to identify the beaches. People have complained about they didn't know where they were on the beach, so we put signs on every street. The benches were set up this week, the new benches for the beach, plus we had the plaques for the promenade. We're still waiting for more plaques, and we will be putting more benches down on the beach in the future. We were up at the tennis courts. We helped Andrew Miles. We patched the cracks that formed in the tennis courts. He got us the material. The next thing we're going to do is he has to close the tennis courts for a day so we can paint them. And he's working on getting the paint. It just hasn't been delivered yet. The parkway, we have 20 more bushes to plant, and then that project will be complete totally. And we've had video pipe in town. Some people complained, 9600 did, about the storm drains and the water. We've had torrential downpours, but we did go around and we are cleaning all our catch basins in that area. That's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank, for the good
Sure.
job you do. Scott?
A couple minor things. We have our return date on our Code Red case. That was the open public records request where an activist has sued Margate. Isn't just Margate. They've sued about 20 or 25 other municipalities as well, where they want the information of the subscribers who receive our Code Red alerts if there's a hurricane or blizzard coming or whatever. That information includes their private home address, their phone number, their email, and we've resisted that and said we're not going to give it unless there's a court order that we think it's a matter of privacy and the people have a right to have that information kept private. Hopefully we'll win. I thought we had a good first round. I believe the city clerk was in on that first hearing we heard, and towards the end of the month, I think it's the 27th, the judge gave them a little bit more time if they wanted some discovery from us, and then I and the attorney for Code Red stipulated and gave them some additional information. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. But our position has been and remains, we're not going to release this, what we consider private information, unless a court orders us to do so. One other thing, I had sent you a copy of an attorney letter voicing a complaint about the storage of beach chairs along the bulkhead on our beach. I think you're going to have to, I would like to respond. I don't want to ignore their letter, but I'm going to need some input from you. Historically, people have stored their beach chairs on the beach, whether that's by the bulkhead or under the lifeguard tent, or more recent times on the dune fencing, which I think they've stopped that, I believe. But we need to come up with some kind of answer or solution, even if it's we don't want to do anything. But I don't think that's the answer. I think there's some happy medium here. There's got to be some maybe compromise, because it's our people who are storing their chairs there. But on the other hand, it is somewhat unsightly. I have a picture of it here if you want to see. I think you have pretty good IT. You're familiar with the beach. If you can give me some direction, or Roger and I have talked it over. They said it was debris in the letter.
Trash.
Obviously
They
not.
said trash.
Trash. It's not that. It's people's chairs, and they have their names on them, and they have, they lock them up to the bulkhead so somebody can't steal them. So, but what are your thoughts?
There's got to, my thoughts, there's got to be a way that we can make everybody happy. It's a little more than people's chairs. It's a messy area. It really is. So we have to find a way, if their law allows them to attach their chairs to the bulkheads, and so be it, but we have to find a way to clean this area up. I'm done. Marty?
Yeah, if I could suggest, I think since the letter did come from an attorney, maybe we should discuss it in closed session,
They can.
as opposed to discussing it publicly.
I'm not really worried about a privacy. I can go in closed session if you want, but I don't consider it that major of a problem. I think it's just something we have to maybe apply some common sense with the solution, or maybe think about it till the next meeting.
Mayor?
Go
So,
ahead.
Scott, how much of the bulkheads are city-owned as opposed, I know the street ends are city-owned, as opposed to private-owned?
Well, in the area that this addressed, this was built by the Army Corps, I believe, after the '62 storm. And they didn't follow the property lines that well. If you recall, a few years back, we conveyed title to some strips. One was at Rumson Avenue, where there was a 6-foot gap between the property line and the bulkhead, which was on city property. A lot of these bulkheads are city property. The offending ones with the pictures from the lawyer, that's on city property.
So if it's, the beach is a public park
Yes,
and it's city property,
yes,
what says they can't tie their chairs up to it?
nothing says.
So the only thought I had after you called me and asked me the question, I know down in Wildwood, they have these boxes that they put up at the beginning of the season, and the city, they have some private enterprise renting them out by the week or the month. I don't want to see that on our beaches. But could we think about a design of corrals that would be, not fenced in, but it would have 4 corners to it with posts between the bulkhead and the dune? Because we can't do anything on the water side of the dune, because that's DEP, am I correct?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think you would be prohibited from.
Oh, yes, you
putting
would.
posts there to
Oh, yes, you
store
would.
chairs.
We have a permit of what we are. We have a permit on what we're allowed to do on the beach, a maintenance permit, right, and
Yeah,
then
you're not
that's
allowed
not
to do
an
anything on the
activity.
beach. Just ask Longport.
Don't they have corrals in Ventnor, John? By the Vassar, I think there's
Yeah.
corrals,
Yeah.
5,000.
right?
Yeah, so something like that, in like, say, 4 or 6 areas, like every 2 beaches, every 2 stretches.
My thought, we talked about it a little bit, would be a couple posts, some kind of a cord, not metal, should be encased with some kind of rubber or something, and let them lock their chairs up there, but do it in an orderly fashion, so it doesn't, like, there's some legitimacy to their complaint. It does look like hell. You get piles of chairs all over the place. It's not neat. But on the other hand, I could see the convenience of not having to lug your chair back and forth if you get to the beach every day. So this is why you guys gotta take a look at it, tell us how I should respond to this lawyer. I'll respond now saying, we're looking at it, and we're gonna try to come up with a solution.
Well, and, okay, so just for me, and I think Mike mentioned it and so did John, where does it stop? So there's chairs, there's umbrellas, there's tables, there's wagons, there's weightlifting equipment, there's ropes. Well, where does, canoes, where do we stop? And there's stuff that's tied to the bulkhead, and there's stuff that's on top of the bulkhead.
Well, fortunately, we
So-
have 2 people here who are experts at this. We have Mr. Richetti, who has about 50 years of dealing with beach chairs, paraphernalia. We also have Chief Adams, I think.
That's
who
a
has
good word, paraphernalia, I like it, there's a lot of
vast amount
that.
experience with beach chairs and beaches and lifeguards. Maybe these fellows would have a solution.
Well, it's not a solution, but when we addressed this last year, we addressed it because there were chairs along the split rail fences over the dunes.
Yeah.
And we put tags on all the chairs, the offending chairs and the offending kayaks, to be removed by a certain date. I think even this year, we started in June to any offenders because I gave our leftover tags to Anthony Edge. So we just kind of pushed the chairs maybe in a way
Towards the bulkhead.
from one location to another, and I think that was our fear last year when we moved them off the split rail fences, as to where do we draw that line? And that's what we're dealing with now.
Well, is this the only area in Margate where this problem exists?
Well, let's put it this way, it's the only one that I've gotten a letter from
Yes.
a lawyer complaining about.
Well, then maybe we should take an inventory of that,
Absolutely, Frank.
see what it is.
He
Because,
ripped up that
because
beach
I am certainly not against putting something that's organized up, but once we do that, we're gonna have to do every
My
beach.
chairs are on the
We have to understand that.
I guess Argyle Avenue should be treated the same as Pembroke.
Go to Douglas,
Same as-
Douglas Avenue is probably even worse than
Yeah,
the offending
Douglas.
letter.
I mean, there are,
Okay?
but no one's complained of it.
No one's complained up there, no, they're happy down there.
Happier section of the beach, I guess. I don't know the answer. But I'm looking for direction.
Why don't you inform the attorney that we're looking at it, which is the truth?
And we are gonna come up with a solution.
Okay, cool. Okay. Anything else on that?
I see Chief Adams smiling. Do you have a solution already? You not?
Oh, cool.
Take your chair.
We should come up with a solution.
This is a simple solution.
I take my chair to a truck, so I don't, have that problem.
That's right, you're a resident of Margate. You carry your chair.
On my boat.
Wow.
All right, well,
Do you follow bike safety rules?
Yes, I do.
All right, let's move on.
With the flow.
progress is
At this point, you okay?
I am
Do you have
done.
any comments, Maureen? John? Okay, at this point, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment? 3 minutes. If anybody wants to speak, state your name and address at the microphone, please. There being no public no, I'm kidding.
Here she comes.
I just have a comment about the chair.
Name and address, please.
Kathy Heitzman, 22 South Adams Avenue in Margate, having moved from South Washington. I carry my chairs to and from the beach, and I don't really think it's fair for the public to just say, oh, I have the right to do this. And what happens is it gets messy. It starts accumulating, because just like when you have a babysitter, if you leave dishes in the sink, when you come home, they're filled because there was something there. And once we let 1 or 2 beaches do it, then that's going to happen throughout. So that's just me as a resident. And by the way, thank you for doing the steps. They're beautiful.
Thank you, Ed. Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make the motion to close public comment.
I'll second it.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes,
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
so moved.
second,
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
yes.
We will reconvene at 4 o'clock.